start the webinar, people will be coming in. Welcome, Eileen, Rosalind, Angela, welcome, Mel. I'm just gonna drop in the chat. So people are still coming in. I don't know. Do you want to give a couple of minutes?
Oh, yeah. We're at 2.
Like a minute or, okay.
Give a couple of minutes and we'll get started.
Yep. We're gonna have to get some conversation in Black music,
right,
to play while
right.
We're allowing people to come in.
I would concur. I think that would be great.
It has some little doo.
And there's some nice tunes out there. We could always, do Marvin Gaye, What's Going On.
Oh yes, that's a good one. So
other
people that are already here, drop your suggestions for music that we could play while everyone's coming into the Zoom. Songs that you like to listen to that are, I don't know, what do you think, Richard? Positive, maybe not positive, melancholy, but just.
Yeah, I mean, music that is healing.
Yes.
Right. Makes us think, forces us to think about who we are and where we're going. Let's one more minute and then we get started, okay?
Frankie Beverly and Maine.
Yeah, I like that.
Yes.
Which one though? Joy and pain.
Yes.
Sunshine and rain.
What's happening, brother? Marvin Gaye. Okay, so I think we can compile a couple of lists and we'll just keep adding. Keep Your Head to the Sky. I do like that one. Earth, Wind, and Fire. So which song from Earth, Wind, and Fire?
There's so many reasons.
Right, I like that one. Reasons, right. That would do it. Curtis Mayfield, of course. Curtis Mayfield. We people who are darker than blue. Are we going to stand around this town and let whatever they say come true? We are good for nothing. They all figure voiceless. Anyway, beautiful, beautiful songs. Okay, let's get started, family. We know more folks will be entering the session, and we, out of respect for everyone's time, and plus we only have a short period of time to hear from one of our great thought leaders, one of our brilliant individuals in our community who continues to do important work, critical work in service of our people. And so we want to get started and give everyone time to also think about what questions they might want to pose, because we will have time to take a few questions. But again, let's get started. My name is Richard Rowe. I am training director for the Black Mental Health Alliance. I want to welcome all of you to our Conversation in Black session this afternoon. This is a series that the Training Institute is sponsoring. In January, we had Dr. Theopia Jackson, a powerful thought leader, thinker, brilliant sister who is head of the Association for Black Psychologists. And of course, everyone thought that was on point. Her presentation was on point and wanted to hear more from her. And so we are glad that we were able to invite another powerful thinker and individual again who is with us this afternoon to basically share information about the Community Healing Network and Emotional Emancipation Circles. And so on behalf of the Black Mental Health Alliance and our executive director, Ms. Andrea Brown, who I think will possibly be on in this session in a few minutes. But I'm going to start off by introducing, and it's my honor and pleasure to introduce this individual, because I think I met her about five or 6 years ago and was so impressed with the work that she was doing, her organization was doing. She came to Baltimore to do a training for the Black Mental Health Alliance at that time. And it was a powerful 2-day training about emotional emancipation circles. And we were moved by the content of the information that was shared during that 1.5 day or 2-day training. So I could not really ever forget what was taught, what was brought to our attention during that time. And we are fortunate again to have her back. But she's been back to Baltimore on several occasions. And by the way, if Miss Margaret Powell is on the line, we want to send out our thanks. I don't know if Margaret is here, but Margaret and others basically were part of the trainings, and they led some of the emotional emancipation circles. So anyone in Baltimore who has ever led an emotional emancipation circle, we extend our praise and our thanks to you.
Absolutely, I second that.
That's right. We know the work that's involved, and we know the commitment that is required in order to lead those circles. And so I just want
to say special love to Sister Margaret. I'm so grateful. Thank you.
Right. And she is still connected, and others like her are still connected in some shape, form, or fashion. And so we again send our thanks out to her. So let's get started, you all. Let's get started because, again, we have a short period of time to talk about so much and to basically provide all of you with a framework, with an approach that we believe is so important to basically use in your programs and or to give serious consideration to as we move our community from pain and trauma to joy and healing. And we know that healing is critical if we're going to basically do this work, healing for ourselves, healing for our families, healing for our children, healing for our community. And so that's what we're all about. That's the goal of that we basically hold very dear to our mission. And that's what we really want to be all about. So Enola G. Aird is an African, and I'm going to not read everything on her bio because she told me not to. But I'm going to just try to highlight some of it because I told her that we could just read her bio and park ourselves in her bio and just talk about why her bio is so poignant and so powerful in terms of what she lifts up in her bio. But she is an African born in Panama. She is accountable to God and her ancestors as the daughter of Ernesta Carmen Reed and Randolph Warren Aird of Panama, the granddaughter of Edika Minerva Allende of Barbados and Charles Reed of Jamaica, and Ellis White of Barbados and Ellen Aird of Grenada. Enola was raised by and is also accountable to her aunt Edna Amita Hardwood and her uncle Raw McLean and her aunt Maria Reed of all of Panama. Now, again, there's more to this, but I'm gonna let her basically comment on why the word accountable is used often in her bio, because that suggests something more than just the listing of names. And you will basically hear that word again in this last statement that I'm going to read in her bio. Enola is an activist, a mother, a lawyer, and the founder and president of Community Healing Network, which is mobilizing Black people across the diaspora to heal from and end the trauma caused by the centuries-old lie of white superiority and Black inferiority. She attributes her vision, passion, and commitment to the movement for emotional emancipation, to stories passed down in her family about her great-grandfather, Samuel Allende, who was a loyal follower of the Honorable Marcus Mosiah Garvey. Welcome, Enola Air. How are you doing this afternoon?
I'm doing just wonderfully. I'm so grateful. I live in a state of constant gratitude, and I'm especially grateful to be with you this afternoon and have the opportunity to talk about our shared passion, Black people, and our complete liberation. So I'm thrilled to be with you.
So Enola, before we begin our conversation with your presentation, I know you have some slides, powerful presentation, by the way. I snuck a peek. I took a peek and saw some of your slides. But before we get started, talk a little bit about your bio and the word accountable, as I mentioned, is used. I didn't include the fact that you are accountable to 2 adult children and a grandson. I didn't mention that, but again,
you didn't mention that he's amazing, my grandson.
Okay, he's okay.
Missed that point.
Right. But anyway, say a little bit about your bio, please.
So the bio was a decision that I made, informed by the teachings that I have learned from the Association of Black Psychologists. You mentioned Sister Theopia Jackson, the president of ABPSI. I've had the privilege, the honor to work very closely with Sister Cheryl Tawede-Grills, who was our training leader when we came to Baltimore, and has been every time we have come to Baltimore. And through her, I've learned so much about, well, not as much as I'm going to know, but I've learned a lot about what it means to be African. And one of the most important things that it means to be African is to be focused on defining success in terms of the quality of our relationships. It is really not important to me anymore where I went to school. It's really important to me to honor my elders and to honor my ancestors and to really understand the context from which I come, the responsibilities and accountabilities that I owe to the divine, to my ancestors, to my elders, and to my children and to my children's children. I am thrilled because I've always respected my elders. I remember a friend years ago said to me that I was like 2 generations delayed because of my the ways in which I obeyed my parents. But I've always, that's been part of me. And now to know that is part of what it means to be African, to understand that, and to be able to look back and think that, you know, as a child of West Indian grandparents growing up in Panama, so much of what we did is rooted in our being African people. So that's been very, just very, very gratifying, very thrilling. And so this is the way I introduce myself going forward. I will introduce myself in the context of my relationships. And of course, then those relationships give rise to a sensitivity to the other relationships that I have to form in their name. And I do remember this, my grandmother was always very keen to say that you represent the family when you go out. It's not just you going out, it's the family going out.
All the powerful traditions and rituals that, basically held us together and kept us together. You and I talked earlier before we started the program today, and even this week, we keep hearing about suffering in our community and the pain that we continue to have to bear because forces from without continue to do to us what they have not done to others, but we seem to be caught up in this this kind of endless tangle of pathology caused by so many forces that we really won't get time to get into this afternoon. But want to, before you start your slide presentation, Enola, why this work for you? Why are you why are you, and why did you park yourself in this space? Would love to know.
I don't think I know entirely, but I do feel that, as you mentioned in the bio, that it is connected to Samuel Alene, my great grandfather, who I heard from my mother and my aunts would get dressed up every Sunday to go to the UNIA meetings, and that when he went there, apparently he didn't tell them what he was doing there because they were lowly women, and of course that's another part of the movement that we need to to be critical of. But they said very clearly that when he went to these places, that he went with a certain spring in his step. His shoulders were squared, and he seemed to have a great deal of pride. And I can see him in my mind's eye every time I talk about him, going and coming back from the UNIA with a deepened understanding of who he was as an African man. And I just think, this is in my DNA. I am grateful for it, and I am determined to be accountable to him, and through him to Garvey, who I really do believe, and many are beginning to acknowledge, is the first African who really was able to bring all of the diaspora together. Imagine in 1920, bringing in August in the 1920s, people from all over the world, Black people from all over the world, to be in Harlem for a whole month, where he says to them, we're going to have a flag and it's going to be red, black, and green. And even now, today, we recognize that flag as one that unites us. We're going to declare the Universal Declarations of the Rights of Negro people. We're going to do all these things, and we're going to focus on self-reliance and self-determination. I'm very proud to stand in that tradition. I'm proud to be a Garvey woman.
Right, beautiful. So let's move into your slides, because I really think that that's going to, for everyone who is in this session, it's going to leave you thinking and feeling proud, of course, in terms of who we are as a people, but also it's going to give you reasons for concern and reasons to basically figure out what it is that we need to do as a people to change, the trajectory of so many of us in our community from moving in an opposite direction, when we need to be moving together collectively in a direction that is life-giving, life-affirming, and life-sustaining. So I'm going to let Enola bring up, and Roxanne, if you could bring up the slides and take me off the screen and let Enola do her thing, and then we'll come back, you all, after her presentation and have some questions and some more dialogue.
And Roxanne, are you going to take us all off the screen so that we don't have the, great, thank you very, very much. And thank you, Richard. It is as always, an absolute pleasure to be with you. Good afternoon to everyone. It is great to be with you too, even in these challenging and painful days. They are that, but they're also hopeful days as we see the old order dying. It is, y'all, it's dying. And it is making way for something new. What that will be will, in fundamental ways, depend in large part on what we, Black people, do. Community Healing Network stands in complete solidarity with the people marching today in Minneapolis and other cities across this country. But our mission is different. We are building an emotional emancipation revolution, mobilizing Black people to free ourselves from the most powerful weapon ever formed against us, the lie of white superiority and Black inferiority. Out in the streets, our people are chanting Black Lives Matter. But the terrifying truth is that Every single Black person born anywhere in the world, including Africa, over the last 600 years has come into a world that profoundly devalues Black lives. Next. But it is critical that we remember that this has not always been the case. Marcus Garvey said it best. He said, "We have a beautiful history and we shall create another in the future that will astonish the world." The history of Black people started long before the horrors of enslavement. Africa is the cradle of humanity. It is the home of ancient civilizations that, in the words of Harvard historian Henry Louis Gates, were just as splendid and glorious as any on the face of the earth. Next. But Europe's and Europeans disrupted those civilizations. To justify the enslavement of Africans and the exploitation of Africa, Europeans erased Africa's rich history and invented the lie of white superiority and Black inferiority. That lie was first told in the 1400s by the Portuguese. And according to the lie, everything European, everything white is considered superior, and everything African, everything Black is deemed inferior. Enslavement is as old as humanity itself, but the enslavement of Africans that was launched in the 15th century was very different. It marked the entire continent of Africa and its people as inferior, even subhuman. And that lie was promoted all over the world using every available means and enforced with relentless terror and violence. The lie is the thread that runs through the whole fabric of systemic anti-Blackness. The lie essentially casts Black people out of the circle of humanity, which makes our struggle much, much more than a struggle for racial equality or racial justice. We are in a struggle to reclaim our rightful place in the circle of humanity. Next. James Baldwin said that people are trapped in history. For more than 600 years, people all around the world have been trapped in a Eurocentric narrative grounded in the lie. Every step we have taken, all the successes Black people have achieved, have been made in the teeth of that lie. This is how amazing we are. Think of how much we, as a people, have accomplished while carrying the heavy weight of that lie on our shoulders, in our spirits, for more than 6 centuries. Think how much more we and our children will be able to achieve when we finally free ourselves from that lie once and for all. Because make no mistake, the lie is still very much with us today, adversely affecting the world's perceptions of us and our perceptions of ourselves. The lie is at the root of the gross disparities between Black and white people in health, education, income, wealth, policing, and of course, police killings. It is the reason why doing anything while Black can be dangerous, traumatic, and all too often deadly. The lie has taken its toll in the form of multi-generational trauma with serious adverse psychological, physical, and behavioral consequences. Baldwin was right. We are trapped in history, to which I say, we are escaping. Come with us. Next. The escape route that CHN is building is a global grassroots movement for the emotional emancipation of Black people, for complete freedom from the lie. CHN has been working to build this movement since 2006. Our vision is a world in which all Black people have moved beyond surviving to flourishing and are enjoying life in all its fullness, in body, mind, and spirit. Our mission is to mobilize and organize Black people across the diaspora to heal from the trauma of anti-Blackness, free ourselves of toxic stereotypes, and reclaim our dignity and our humanity as people of African ancestry. Next. The basic premises of the movement are, one, that Black people are trapped in the European version of history, which is rooted in the lie. Number two, in order to escape, in order to free ourselves from the lie and create a new narrative grounded in the truth of our humanity, we've got to go deep through a process of emotional emancipation to heal from multi-generational trauma. And number three, African cultural principles and values and the insights of African psychology hold the keys to our emotional emancipation. Next. Through this movement, we have built an infrastructure to do the work that Biko, Garvey, Angelo, King, and others have been calling us to do for a very long time, for generations. The driving force, next. The driving force of the movement is the Emotional Emancipation Circle, a self-help support group process originated by CHN and developed in collaboration with our esteemed and principal ally, the Association of Black Psychologists. Next. Circles are trustworthy spaces for emotional healing, wellness, and empowerment. They are Black only spaces where we can breathe, be ourselves, learn about the multi-generational effects of the lie, where we can cry and laugh, share our stories, heal the wounds inflicted by the lie, and think creatively together about how to free ourselves from it forever. Next. Circles are grounded in the values of Ubuntu. I am because we are, and Sawubona, I see you in the deepest sense possible, at the level of our ancestors, at the level of our children and our children's children. EECs are founded in the principle that we heal in community. We are each other's medicine. Next. Next. The Circle operates from the assumption that there is an African way of being in the world. After all, we are the template for humanity, and that African cultural wisdom and values of spirituality, of relationships, of connectedness and accountability, and so much more are the keys to helping us heal ourselves as a people. Next. The Circles also help deepen our understanding of how our brains and our bodies work, especially under racial stress. So we understand that our brain has three parts sort of as a basis, that chronic stress causes heavy allostatic load, which then leads to weathering. And if you think about what a building that's been pummeled by the rain and the weather over time, how that looks, think about how chronic stress of racism is affecting our bodily systems, wearing them down, making us, of course, more susceptible to things like COVID. All we have to think about is, when they get a cold, we get pneumonia. We learn in the emotional emancipation circles that resilience is not us going through no matter what, but resilience is much more complicated. It's about the set of characteristics that we have to cultivate in order to be emotionally healthy, in order to know when the stress is affecting us, in order to know when to stop, when to take care of ourselves so that we can, in fact, be emotionally resilient. And finally, we learn in EECs tools to decrease the harmful physical, psychological, and interpersonal effects of racial stress. Next. I don't have to tell you this. The need for this work keeps growing every single day. Next. That is why we have to treat this project as absolutely urgent, of first importance. We have to strengthen ourselves emotionally and culturally for the journey ahead, because it appears that it is going to get tougher. Next. So we want to invite you again to come with us as we escape. So where are we going? Back into our right minds. undistorted by the lie, to a new mindset grounded in the truth. CHN is determined to make 2020 to 2030 the decade to defy the lie of white superiority and Black inferiority and embrace the truth of Black humanity. Next. Where are we going? We are going to that beautiful future that Garvey envisioned for us. This is the future we are working to create. Black people grounded in an understanding of ourselves as accountable to the divine and each other, loving and trusting ourselves and one another. Our children knowing how truly beautiful and valuable and worthy they are, and empowered to reach their fullest potential. The lives of Black people truly valued. This can only happen if we take the time to free ourselves and the world from the lie. It is customary for people in the movement to say that this struggle continues, la lucha continua, as though we are destined to struggle forever. As a mother of Black children, I reject that notion. I insist on saying that the struggle against the most powerful weapon ever formed against us is in fact ending, because we, Black people, are ending it. We are on the journey toward emotional emancipation, toward complete freedom for Black people. We are escaping the poisonous European narrative and writing a renewed African narrative. Come with us. Thank you. I'm done.
Okay. Everybody, thank you, Nola. Wow. Powerful, powerful, powerful presentation that we need to now do some unpacking. And so that's what I hope we can do in the next 30 minutes that we have with Enola to unpack some of the information that she has shared. You know, let me, and folks, if you have any questions, please, this is the time to start entering your questions into the chat box. We will basically take some questions as we proceed through our conversation with Enola. But Enola, I mean, you have given us much to think about. And so I want to try to basically highlight some of the comments that you basically shared in the presentation. If we were to do what you have suggested, what the organization, Community Healing Network and Association of Black Psychologists, if we were to embrace all the powerful tenets of the Emotional Emancipation Circle movement, that movement, what would it look like as not at the end, but as we proceed moving towards the end? What would that look like for our community?
Well, it would start first and foremost by us doing the thing that our oppressors do not want us to do, which is staying in the circle, coming to the circle. The Emotional Emancipation Circle is a real thing, but it's also a virtual thing, a symbolic thing. It is coming together to say that we're going to reject the most important tool in the master's hands, which is mistrust of each other, where we commit to trusting each other, to disciplining ourselves to increase our level of trust. And this stuff does not happen overnight. It's like exercising a muscle. You have to work at it, and you have to say that nothing is going to separate us. We have to work through whatever challenges may come, whatever feelings of inadequacy, whatever hurts we may impose on one another, because one of the things that we are conditioned to do is to not trust each other and to say, well, gee, you know, we started out this project and well, so for whatever reason, it's not going to work. For whatever reason, like, hey, the other person got a gig with Vogue, or, you know, they're coming after us in all kinds of ways. And they actually know, you know, capitalism is awesome in its ability to co-opt. And so it's being aware of those things and purposing to be disciplined so that we don't get caught up in them. And we've got lots of history. We can spend lots of time looking at the history and how they attempt to co-opt us. The playbook is very, very straightforward. We just need to be able to recognize it and say that we're not going to fall for it this time. And so it's that, I think it's that foundational. It's right. We're going to heal. We're going to be individually on a path toward healing, which is what CHN invites people to, but also we're going to be on a path toward healing ourselves. The rupture that was created by the lie. So I think that's the first step. And then a determination that we're just going to keep going and systematically rejecting all the things that the lie has taught us to believe about ourselves, about each other, and beginning to understand that, as I said, the lie does more than just create this racial inequality. The lie actually casts us out of the circle of humanity, which is why that police officers able to stand on this brother's neck with such impunity and look right into the camera, because this is not a human being in his eyes and in the eyes of too many other people.
Right. And we are in a place right now where there's a lot of conversation taking place. There's a lot of attention focus on, the impact of white supremacy, systemic racism, racial injustice, et cetera. Given your history with CHN and given the work that you all have been doing over the last number of years that this work has started, do you see something that makes you hopeful in terms of the direction that we are headed in, or are you concerned about us missing, again, an opportunity to really seize the moment and truly embrace the moment and to do what you are suggesting is necessary for us to heal?
I'm very, very hopeful because, and I'm hopeful as I am in pain, in anguish, because the indignities and the assaults to our humanity just keep coming and coming and coming to the point where we can't ignore them anymore. The question now is, will we recognize our need to do the work, the psychological and emotional work, the building up of those muscles of trust in order to enable us to do the other stuff that we need to do? I mean, we know what we need to do intellectually. I mean, I can't tell you the number of meetings where we sit together as Black people and we say, we need to be able to work together more effectively. We need to be able to do this, that, and the other thing. We need to plan and be strategic. And we're in this moment of great anguish, and I don't see any national effort, or certainly not international effort, of Black people to come together and say, hey, gee, we're suffering from the same things all over the world. Let's be strategic. Let's develop a plan. Let's make sacrifices for one another. Let's make sure that there's no one entity that is going to be above all others, but we're all going to be co-equals. That's very hard. The lie militates against that. And so we have a tremendous opportunity by this moment. This pandemic has really raised questions about what it really means to be human. Is it the I way, which is represented by Europe and mastered by the United States, or the we way, which is the original way of being human, and that was developed and offered to us first in Africa? And it's very clear that the I way is completely unsustainable. And so we are being called, and incidentally, into the pandemic, 2 months into the pandemic, the forces that are driving whatever is going on right now put into the center of it the question of Black humanity with the brutal killing of George Floyd. So this is a moment for us to be very, very alert to what we are being called to do in this, sort of inflection point in human history. So I'm at once hopeful, but on the other hand, I know that the power of the lie is extremely strong, which is why we're going after the lie with all of our strength. It is the root cause of the problem. It is the root cause of the problem. And if we don't focus on it, we'll miss, we'll miss obviously the root cause. We'll be over here playing in this pond and et cetera. I mean, the lie has been in effect and with tremendous power while we passed the constitutional amendments, while Barack Obama got elected president. I mean, all these wonderful things keep happening and we think we're making progress, but we're really not, because we haven't gone after the fundamentals, the fundamental lie that is determining so much of, it's not just our lives. I mean, we realize now there's a hierarchy of humanity and it's whiteness and proximity to whiteness, but not maybe even that. I mean, we see how our Asian brothers and sisters have been dehumanized by this lie. We've all been, including white people, dehumanized by the lie.
So let's take a few questions from the participants. Let me see. How do we message this to the broader village? How do we really message what you are? Because again, you are so right on, Enola, when you say we have to do the work, and the work is basically oftentimes viewed as being too hard or being too abstract. And we want to zero in on what is that work. I know that's behind the question, how do we message this and how do we get our folks to embrace this? Talk a little bit more about the work and what's required to really help us defy the lie and turn towards each other in the way that we need to.
Well, the psychologists, the Association of Black Psychologists have done the work for us. They've created a template, a curriculum that helps us over the course of anywhere from 7 to 10 sessions, understand what has happened to us, understand the impact of history on our emotional lives, understand how it's affected our communities, understand how it's affected our families, how it's affected us, so that we can begin to detoxify our minds and spirits. It's going to take that level of actual individual in collective work to help us to sort of clear away all the fog. And as Denzel Washington says in The Great Debaters, get us back into our righteous minds. Right. So that is the work. It is of first importance. And in terms of how you get the message across, I think, frankly, that we need, and we're in the market for an excellent marketing firm with whom we can be in conversation and share what it is that we intend to do, what it is that we're determined to do, and ask them to help us shape in the best possible way this message in a way that it breaks through. We think that defy the lie of Black inferiority, defy the lie of white superiority and Black inferiority, and embrace the truth of Black humanity is a great message. But if it can be refined or some other message developed to get through to our community, we welcome the opportunity to work with people who have that skill.
Well, and again, take some more questions, but Enola, the lie has us on this hamster wheel.
It does.
And we tend to be okay, or we seem to be accepting of being on that hamster wheel forever. I mean, all the things that we're talking about now, many of us know to be the truth. We know there's a need for us to embrace each other, to love each other, to uplift each other, to value each other. But for some not strange reason, because it's clear to our psychologists and our psychiatrists, and many of us doing this work, that the hamster wheel has become a refuge for many of us. And so we think we are moving, we think we are advancing, But at the end of the decade, at the end of the day, at the end of the time frame that we're doing this work, we seem to be in the same place on so many levels. But I don't want to have us talk only about where we are not, but I want us to really figure out how do we really move the emotional emancipation circles and the approaches that you are sharing, and that the Association of Black Psychologists and the Black Mental Health Alliance, that we're all basically on the same page, trying to move together on this train towards the promised land, and that's the work.
But we have to recognize the immense power of conditioning and capitalism.
Okay.
Immense power of conditioning and capitalism. Whenever I think about capitalism and its role here, I think about the movie I'm Gonna Get You, Sucker. When the guy comes back from the war and his neighborhood has just been ravaged, and he goes to the character who's the radical played by Clarence Williams III, who has clearly transformed himself in some interesting ways. And he asks the question, what happened? And Williams kind of stares off into space because he's clearly a little nutty. And he says, we went down to take over the welfare office or something, that they were giving out jobs that day.
Right.
And recognize that, capitalism is very seductive. And we need to be aware of those temptations that would draw us away from the work. But do not be sanguine about power of conditioning and capitalism. Those are everybody who lives today was born into a world where we're just conditioned to believe the lie, and to condition to just this is reality. To conceive of changing reality, that's a huge thing.
Right.
And a lot of people are just busy living their lives.
Right.
And one of the things that racism does is it keeps us at the level where we don't really have the opportunity to examine our condition. We don't have the opportunity to do what Paulo Freire says, it's to go on the journey toward conscientization. So, it keeps us where it wants us. And so it does require effort, but we have seen since we started this in 2006, more and more people saying, hey, yeah, I want to be on this train because I see what's coming. We see the rise of white supremacy. We see the ways in which it really is reestablishing itself in the open. It's not hidden. And so I hope it will not take more of the loss of life in our community for large numbers of us to begin to really mobilize and focus on this as an issue of first importance.
Right. A couple more questions. Our executive director, Andrea, is of course clear about why this should be a national effort. And I know that if it is, based on what I know about CHN, that you are all over the country doing this work, and I know even internationally. Say a little bit more about that. But before you do that, I'm going to share a few more questions with you, and then maybe you can address all of them in your next response. Is CHN affiliated with social work networks like the NASW or the National Association of Black Social Workers? Like to get more training on how you can participate in training in emotional emancipation circles. I live in Philadelphia and would like to get more information and training. Please share the last slide again, if you don't mind, in terms of where we want to end up. If you want to do that, you can, but I mean, you pretty much know.
I depend on my sister Roxana. She will do it for me.
Okay.
Internationally, we are there. And I have to just stop and again sing the praises and give thanks to our sister Cheryl Tawede Grills, who really, it is through her good offices of traveling the world and taking the emotional emancipation circle process wherever she went for a period of about 5 years. That means that we have planted seeds, because we don't have all the resources. We haven't had all the resources we need and all the resources we're going to get in order to really make this, we need the resources equal to the magnitude of the centuries-old problem that we're solving. It's a 600-year, and that's a lot of resources that you need. But it is because of Sister Cheryl Tarwede Grills that we have planted seeds in South Africa, in Ghana, in the United Kingdom, 3 cities, London, Manchester, and Birmingham. I just did an interview with a sister this past weekend who's over in the United Kingdom, who has links with sisters all over Europe. We're going to get together to do a special Africa Day program to talk about the ways in which we can proliferate the emotional emancipation circles internationally. CHN is affiliated and proudly affiliated with the Institute for the Black World Black Family Summit, which includes the National Association of Black Social Workers and the Black Psychiatrists of America, and a host of other organizations. And through that organization, we count ourselves as part of that family, and our aspiration, our goal, our intent is to be able to offer training starting at the end of this year online, so that we can really scale up. We can't go everywhere, but we're developing online trainings that will enable us to share the resources of emotional emancipation circles using technology. So that is our plan, and that is a plan that we are going to be working with the Association of Black Psychologists.
Right. And I know we will repeat, or at least share with the participants, how they can get in touch with you and the website and so forth. Because again, folks, this is not something that just started yesterday. CHN has been around for a number of years. Association of Black Psychologists, you can go on their website and also basically see the work that they are doing in concert with CHN, the Community Healing Network. And you can also receive information from our organization, Black Mental Health Alliance, about the work that is being done by both groups. We are eager to partner with and team up with both those organizations, as well as many others, because we know, again, the African proverb, we want to go far.
Yes,
and
indeed.
In order to go far, we've got to go together. We can't go quickly, because if we want to go quickly, go alone. We've been doing that for too long. So this is the moment, this is the time for us, and I know that that's one of your favorite proverbs, African proverbs too. If we want to go far, folks, we've got to go together. And this is about, creating the opportunities within our community to be able to go far together. And some of that requires financial support. It requires volunteerism, yes, but again, to sustain movements, we need to have everyone pitching in, leaning in, basically providing their talents and their treasures in order to make certain that we can sustain these efforts. Do you want to say something about that?
Yeah, I mean, we've been around for 15 years, and it has all been volunteer.
Wow.
It's all been volunteer, and we believe, and we're just so grateful for the strength and the guidance from the divine and ancestors to do this. But the bottom line is that we are at the point now where scaling up is absolutely essential. And where scaling up cannot be done in the absence of resources equal to the magnitude of the problem we're solving.
Well, again, there's some folks who are still asking the question around action, and the steps that are required, needed, and for us to really, really move this off the dime and move it to the next level, I guess, and move it to the next stage.
And I'm always very curious about that, because the action that we say is necessary is the very simple action of going through the process on the journey toward emotional emancipation. Now, we will figure out ways to make the training accessible to people through technology, but I have to say that there is no substitute. There can be no substitute for going through the steps toward emotional emancipation, for exposing ourselves to the wonderful set of 7 keys that the Association of Black Psychologists have developed for us that really force us to come to terms with our history, but also introduce us to the wealth of resources available to us to promote our healing. James Baldwin says people are trapped in history and history is trapped in them. So even though we're trapped in this European narrative, we are carrying with us the seeds of our own healing, the seeds of our own revival, because we do have the resources of African cultural wisdom, African philosophy, African psychology, and we're carrying that with us. I mean, one basic African piece of philosophy is that we are we people, not I people. And for me, the clearest example of that is when my children are about, the age of 4, started coming up to me and saying, "Mom, why do we call so-and-so Aunt, even though she's not, we just realized she's not related to us." The reality is that in Panama, in Jamaica, in Barbados, in Sweden, in France, that is the reality for Black people. We are connected. We are relationship people. I was raised by my aunt. My parents were alive, but I was raised by my aunt. How many of us can tell that story because we do not see ourselves in these sort of, neat little nuclear boxes? So we have been carrying with us the African wisdom and African values that we have needed to survive. It's what has brought us here. Now we need to remember, as a sister who is a wonderful emotional emancipation circle facilitator and leader in Rochester, New York, said, we have to remember, we have to recall what it is that we have lost. Arna Bontam says, is there something we have forgotten wandering in these strange lands? There is a lot we've forgotten. And in order for us to, the most important action we need to take, we believe, is to engage in that process of remembering, engage in that process of recognizing that the thing that cut us off from all of that was the lie. And that we offer emotional emancipation circles as a way to do that.
Right. Well, folks, if everything is in place with regards to the what and the how and the when, it's going to require, again, us leaning in and doing the work. And the work is not easy, but the work is necessary. And it's something that I think we should be up to the challenge because we've done it before. People who have endured 600 years of dehumanization can do it again. And basically think about it. And we just focus ourselves on what we have overcome in spite of, being walked 200 miles from the interior of a continent, kidnapped and placed on the shores of Africa in slave castles, and then placed on slave ships, and then basically taking 3, 6 months and sometimes longer to basically end up on plantations and enslaved. But we're still here, and that's the beauty of the emotional emancipation circles, because it takes us there, but also delivers us from the pain, the suffering, to a place where we can be hopeful and we can basically move forward, push forward, and make certain that our children and our children's children will not have to fight the same battles and the same struggles. So
remember, Gil Scott-Heron, the revolution will not be televised. The revolution that we are offering is an internal revolution. And the crucial piece is, as a man thinketh, so is he. And we've got to change our mindset, because that's what is holding us back.
Right. We have a couple of minutes left. Folks who may have missed some of it, yes, the recording will, there is a recording, and this information will be part of that recording. Also, there's a question about, can you tell us how we can find the information you mentioned about the effects of historical racism and white supremacy on the ABSI's website and or your website? There's a lot of information on your website, Enola, that I am really aware of. And we have information about the important work that both organizations are doing in our space at the Black.
Yeah, and we do have three articles actually that we're going to highlight on CHN's website. Two were written by Dr. Cheryl Grills and myself and another person, and one was written by Tasogle Darrell Rowe, who's another esteemed member of the ABSI family. So these are kind of academic articles. They're kind of a tough slog, but they really do explain in great detail what the aspiration is, what the analysis is, what the results are, and what we expect once we go through this process.
Right. Their website, their website is in the chat box. So if you want to basically find out more information about the Community Healing Network, of course you can go there. I see Andrea is on the on this line. So if she can come on and say a few words and join us, if she would love to, there she is. Wonderful.
Absolutely, here I am. First of all, thank you so much. Oh my gosh, it was so rich. I was late because I had a conflict, but I am a note taker, I am a reader, I am a listener. And so to be able to sit at the feet and hear this today, I think was phenomenal for us. Two things I'd like to lift up. First of all, we launched this No Apology, Radical Self-Care. What does that look like? And I want people to understand, to be able to do this, listen, and then really take the steps to do it, is radical self-care, right? It is radical self-care for us and for our community. And so I love that. And, we've had our conversation about Ubuntu and even about Sawabono. And I know that you mentioned that. I love this notion that we are each other's medicine.
Mm-hmm.
Because
let me give credit to the sister, because she's in your town, Mama Rashida Foreman Bay. She says that when we come down there to do the EEC during the uprising, you got her on tape, and that's what she says. We are each other's medicine. We use that all the time.
Thank you. It's just so powerful, especially because if we're not careful, we're in this notion of I. So love that you said that. And one of the things that Richard often talks about is this notion of a playbook. And so, and you raised it, it is, we don't have to fail at this. We just do not. And,
right.
and so thank you. I am quite frankly looking forward to a deep commitment from the Black Mental Health Alliance to connect and work with you.
Got it.
That's got to happen. And so people don't have to wonder how we make this work. Go to our website, go to your website. You will see that we will be collective in this. And I think that's, again, I go back to I love, it's almost a campaign, the decade to defy the lie. Mm-hmm. So I like, people don't have to, again, we don't have to ask. I'm a big call to action person, but the decade to defy the lie is the call to action, right? And so I think, we, and I want to say this publicly, we will work to figure out how we can get funds for the firm, the marketing firm, to really be able to message. Mm-hmm. And you have our commitment. We will work to identify some dollars to partner on that with you. So
thank you so much.
No, it is. So it's super exciting. And so Richard, you didn't ask me all of that, but I had to say it. I think it's important.
Yes, I did.
So I'm going to turn it back over to you to close us out.
Thank you, Andrea.
No, thank you. I'm super excited. So yes.
And thank you, Andrea. And folks are excited, and Andrea, they are excited. They want to know how to proceed, how to do this work. And we know we've had great people in our space and in many of our convenings, because we know we have the playbook. We know we have everything we need.
We do. We have
everything we need, and Enola knows that. So we're speaking to the choir, and so we just have to come together and tie ourselves to each other. She talked earlier about relationships, and Andrea always talks about bringing the family together, and let's do that. And let's just force ourselves to be intentional about doing that and making this happen. We are really pretty much out of time, but we want you, Enola, to share any parting comments, to send us on this journey that we know we need to take, so that we can basically end up where we need to be for ourselves, for our children, for our future. So I'm
I
gonna
have
let you say.
no better words than Garvey's. We have a beautiful history, and we shall create another in the future that will astonish the world. I believe that with every fiber of my being. The way through, in my view, is emotional emancipation. I just, want everybody to think how much we've accomplished with the weight of this lie on our shoulders and in our spirits, as I said before. Think how much more we will be able to achieve, and our children will be able to achieve, once we are free of this burden. It boggles my mind.
We thank you so very, very much. We
Thank
know we
you.
will be in contact with you. We applaud you. We praise you.
forward to
Continue
it.
to do this important work. Thank you, Enola. And
We
thank
thank
you
God
all.
and ancestors.
Thank you, everyone who participated in our session this afternoon. Of course, this is, again, a series of conversations in Black with prominent, outstanding, committed, service-driven servants of the people, in service of our people, and we applaud them and truly appreciate them. We thank all of you. Again, the recording will be available in the next few days. There will be hopefully a survey that will be also pushed out after this session, so that you can let us know what you thought about this session, and we expect for you to complete that and send it back to us. But we want to thank you all, thank the Black Mental Health Alliance, thank Roxana, our tech person.
Thank you, Roxana.
Always on point, always with us to help us and guide us through these very, very important sessions. Thank you all. Be safe, be well, and we will see you in May with another conversation. There's other things going on. Go to our website, but we appreciate you. Bye, Enola.
Thank you, Richard.
Yes, ma'am.
Peace
Take
and
care.
blessings.
Okay, peace, everybody.